Well, hello everyone. This is Dr. Ayleen, and this is Medicine Walk. And for those of you who are watching on or listening in on Blog Talk Radio, this is also Healing House Radio with Dr. Ayleen. And it is cool to be able to broadcast on both. And it is sort of as this thing sort of kind of evolves and grows, it is it really feels good to be able to connect, and it really feels good to be able to have an opportunity to talk with everybody and help out. I've been so touched by so many people who have contacted me and said that they really enjoy the show. They put it in the comments that they really enjoy the program and they really enjoy this time we have together, and also that it's helpful. And I'm really glad about that. I'm really happy that it's helpful. And I want to continue to be helpful. So if there's a topic that you would like me to cover, that maybe it's something that's kind of weighing on you, that you would like to have me explore or just to get a different perspective on, please put it into the comments. For those of you who are on Blog Talk Radio, you can either go to the Facebook page, Medicine Walk with Dr. Ayleen, and you can post a topic there, or you can tweet me a topic that you'd like. So there's some way, specifically that I can help you with. So one of those days, and have you ever had one of those days pull a complete Groundhog Day type of thing with you, and the next thing you know, you are in one day after another, and it just seems like that one day is lasting forever? Well, sometimes one of those days can feel like that. And it has been one of those days and weeks here at my office where a section of our ceiling kind of collapsed. Actually, not kind of, it actually did collapse. And no one was hurt. And that is the single most important thing, that no one was hurt. And basically what happened is a piece of equipment was moved that had been on the roof for a very, very, very long time. And it kind of created a chain reaction, and it affected not just our suite, but all the way down the row. And so I came in last Friday morning, and I was met by a representative from the building owners who told me that I could not go in the building. And I was thinking, why? And she told me that the building was unstable and it was unsafe. And I couldn't even go in. I have my laptop computers in here. And I said, well, can I just go in to get that? And she said, no, you can tell me where they are and I'll go get them for you, which, she was very nice to do that. And I had to get on the phone. I had to call up patients. I had to say, I can't see you today. We have to reschedule. My building's not safe. And so it created just this whole, I love my building and I love my office, and yes, it does leak, and there are certain problems with it, but overall, it's very easy to get to, and I really enjoy having my office here. Kind of worked out a really nice, sweet space that I can enjoy coming to, that is a healing space for other people, that I can do my chiropractic work, I can do my spiritual work, and the church where I'm a reverend is here, and I'm the associate pastor, and so I spend more time here, honestly, than I do at home. And sometimes when things happen that kind of rock your foundation a little bit, that suddenly make it seem a little bit less safe and certain in life and in our environments, that can really, ruin your day. And if you're going through one of those times, my heart goes out to you, because, and I think I just hit the mic for the Blog Talk Radio, so sorry. But, my heart does go out to you. because it's tough when things are out of balance. It's tough when we cannot go on about our day and we cannot do the things that we need to do and do the things we want to do based on circumstances that we really have no control over. Now, they provided us with a different building that we could go to and treat. The really interesting part is that out of all of the offices that were affected, pretty much my office was the only one that did not have a problem. I mean, you know, there was no stuff falling from the ceiling or anything like that. So I was very grateful that my space, because, you know, I have all my plants here and all my stuff. And so it was nice to have all of that be safe. And because of that, today, instead of having to work at an alternate office space, I was able to, you know, they're doing all kinds of work on it, and they said that it was safe. So I was able to come in and see patients actually in my office, in my space, which also makes it easy for the other folks, because while their offices are getting repaired, they can be at the other space and be able to, you know, work without having to deal with me taking up most of the schedule. So it ended up working out okay. And I mean, ultimately things will get put back together. So why am I sharing this? One, because I mean, you guys are my community. And when things happen, you know, I like sharing both the good and the not so good. And it goes into our discussion as to what constitutes one of those days, first off. And generally, one of those days means that things are just not, that things are not going okay, that maybe something you're trying to put into motion kind of gets stalled or yanked out from under you, and unforeseen development completely rocks the foundation of everything that you were working towards maybe. And while it can be either a minor inconvenience or it could be a really major issue, how do we make it through one of those days when it feels like one of those days is never ending? And I know what that feels like. I know what it feels like to feel stalled. I know what it feels like to wake up and honestly believe, you know what, this day is probably not going to be a whole lot better than the previous day. And sometimes that's proven right. Now, ultimately, every day ends. In Alaska, where, you know, they talk about the nights being 6 months long and the days being, you know, where you go for months. And there's different parts of the world where, because of their position on the planet, you may have days that, you know, you go through an entire day and it's midnight or 1 in the morning and it's still broad daylight. But eventually the day ends. Every day ends. Every experience reaches its end point. And the trick is, how do we manage and how do we stay in our balance place while that's going on, while we're struggling to just kind of make do and keep ourselves moving forward and keep ourselves in a positive enough state to where at least we can get out of bed. Because even that can get challenging. You know, I'm fortunate because I have a dog who is going to wake me up one way or another at about 5:30 in the morning. And, you know, he'll poke his nose at me and he'll, you know, tap on me and say, you know, okay, wake up, time for our walk. Because I do walk him, you know, at that early time. So I always have a motivation to get up. No. Do I always think, you know, that there are some days when, you know what, I just like to stay in bed until 6 or 7 or 8. And especially if I'm not feeling real well. Especially if life has decided it's going to be one of those days for a few weeks. And it can really kind of take the life out of you. It can take the joy out of you. So one of the things that I would really recommend when you're in that place is don't pretend you're not. Don't tell yourself, well, you know what, you know, I'm just going to turn that frown upside down and I'm going to pretend like nothing's going on. Now, there's the whole thing about what you manifest and what you think and, you know, what you think you become. I have sort of a looser perspective on that, because while I do believe that, you know, to a great extent create our reality, or at least how we interact with our reality, I don't believe that our thoughts will necessarily change what's happening, and in many cases it can't. And what it can change is full or joyous that experience can be. It could be something that, you know, really would weigh us down. And if we can accept, you know what, sometimes things are just lousy. Sometimes bad things happen to good people. Sometimes it sucks. You know, my saying, life is fun until it isn't, and it sucks until it doesn't. And no matter how fun it is, at some point it's going to suck. But no matter how much it sucks, at some point it's going to be fun again. So by keeping in mind that what you're going through is temporary, it may not feel temporary, but it is, honestly. Eventually, you will move out of that phase into something else. And it's just a matter of being able to be patient. It's just a matter of being able to sit with it. And sometimes when I find myself getting caught up in trying to stay ahead of it, trying to stay ahead of my discomfort, trying to stay ahead of the unpleasantness of the situation I'm in, I try to remind myself that there's no point in trying to outrun it. So mentally, I picture myself stopping and just sitting on the ground. And in that, it's like, you know what? Go ahead. What have you got? You know, because when we're running from something, when we're running from what we're feeling, when we're trying to avoid the reality of the situation we're in, it ends up being or feeling bigger than what it is. It can become overwhelming because by trying to avoid it, we're not looking at it squarely. And when that happens, and story end up making it more powerful than it is. One thing that when people have nightmares, that used to be, you know, you would tell somebody, well, in your dream, stop and turn around and face it and wait for it. Don't try to run from it. Don't try to avoid it. And sometimes we're just going to feel bad because, you know, there's a perfectly legitimate reason to feel bad. If my office, I mean, you know, thank Creator that my office wasn't damaged, but it could have easily been. I could have walked in and seen all of my things and all of my stuff and my plants just devastated. And that would have sucked. It really would have. That would have been really hurtful to me and depressing and all of that. And I would have had to process that and deal with it. I wouldn't be able to deal with it by pretending it didn't bother me. By pretending, well, no, I'm a spiritual person and spiritual people don't get upset. Spiritual people, you know, always look on the bright side. Yes, they do, and no, they don't. We're human. All of us have bad days. And when I consider that it's part of our humanity to be able to look at a situation and go, wow, this is really saddening to me. This really hits my heart. This makes me feel really down. And it's through that, by acknowledging what we're feeling, honoring what we're feeling, and having that time to just say, you know what? I'm not going to run away from this really depressing thing because I'm afraid it'll depress me. It would depress me. It would upset me. And that would be a perfectly reasonable response. If being upset is a perfectly reasonable response to something, then there's no reason for you to avoid it. Remember, it's temporary. It's what you are feeling in that moment. And maybe that moment stretches out to an hour, a day. If you've lost somebody, you know, who was close to you, and I know what that feels like. And I also know that numbness. And then when the numbness goes away and that pain you feel, or maybe there was something you were really, really looking forward to, and it didn't manifest in the way that you wanted it to. You didn't do anything wrong. Just because life sometimes is unpleasant doesn't mean we did anything wrong. It doesn't mean we're not trusting enough or we don't have enough faith. It just means that sometimes lousy things happen. So how do you manage that? Like I said, first off, don't try to distance yourself from what you're feeling. Feel what you feel as honestly as you can. And if you have somebody that you can talk to about it, even better. Find somebody who you can say, man, I'm really feeling, down about this. This is really, this really sucks. And someone who can sit with you and say, yeah, wow, you want to talk about it? And who will let you express it. Because once you talk it out, especially with someone, it does not seem so overwhelming. It's not quite so big because you're not trying to avoid it. And maybe, by having somebody listen to you, and if you really trust them, then they can be that sounding board. Maybe they can say, you know what, I get it. I get where you're going. Maybe there's some things that we can figure out together that will help get you through this part. You can get through this. Ultimately, you will get through it. How about we figure out ways that it can be more comfortable? One of the first things you can do is break down the bigness of what's going on. Because if you break it down into pieces, and there's certain pieces you can do something about, those. You can be able to kind of lessen the intensity if you can say, it's like, all right, well, I can fix this part, and that will help me feel a little bit better. Okay, take a little bit better as a bonus, as a gain. And maybe there's something else that will make you feel a little bit better. If there's something you can do about it, then you can be able to help that. But there's going to be some aspects of it that are just going to be beyond your control. They're going to be beyond what you're able to do. And in those cases, it just has to work its way through. It's sort of like catching a cold. Sometimes you just got to let the cold run its course. And you bundle up, you drink chicken soup, or, drink that tea that always helps you because you put a couple of cough drops and a peppermint stick in it. Yeah. Figure out what you can do to make the situation better. And if all you can do is wait it out, then figure out a way that you can make the waiting a little bit easier. And connecting with somebody who can be able to really be there. Now, it's not somebody who's going to compare their stuff to your stuff. And as soon as you start talking and it's like, well, you've got it easy and I'm going through this. Okay, that's not the friend you want to talk to at that time. You want to talk to the one who can just listen to you, who can help you work your way through it by finding ways that you can, make it a little bit easier for yourself. Maybe if you're being overwhelmed at work and it is just so, piling on to you and you need a break. Well, maybe you can't get away for a 2-week vacation. And maybe you can get at least a couple of days off. Or maybe you can take an afternoon. And maybe there are things that you can do that actually relax you. To step away from it. We don't always have to stay in the fire. We can step away and go, you know what? I can't deal with this right now. So I'm going to go and I'm going to watch old Abbott and Costello movies until I laugh. Or I'm going to watch old episodes of I Love Lucy. Or I'm going to watch whatever my favorite TV show is. Or, I'm going to go to a movie. If you haven't been to a movie in a long time, go to a movie or go to an art museum. There are ways that we can step out of the situation that have to do with building that eye of the storm. When you're caught in the storm, it's really hard to be able to find that balance point. But when you can step out of the storm into the eye where everything is calm, at least for a little while, you get that breather. Sometimes it's just bad. And, it's if it's financial issues, those can be terrifying. And they can feel like they're not going to get any better, that there's no change, that there's no difference, that there is, it's just, you don't see anything good coming in. And that can be really scary because it affects it affects, oh my gosh, am I going to be able to afford my rent? Oh my gosh, am I going to be able to afford to to pay my utilities and all of that stuff. And all of these things, all of these really hard stories start to build one on top of another on top of another until you're so devastated that you can't see to the fact that what you're going through is temporary. Everything is temporary. The greatest joys and the worst fears are all temporary. And remind yourself of that. Remind yourself that as tough as it is, either you've been through something before that was tougher, or even if you can honestly say, nope, this is the toughest time that I have ever been in, well, then it's only upward from here. Even if you're at the bottom, you have nowhere to go but up. What you're experiencing is bad, maybe. And if it is, I'm sorry. And it is temporary. Every single minute can change your entire life. And when you can at least allow the possibility that, it may not have gotten much better, but maybe it didn't get worse. Maybe that's the first step, like, okay, I've leveled off. And then, little teeny tiny steps that allow you to start feeling like you're making progress. People feel stuck, and a lot of people will talk to me and say, oh, I am so stuck, I'm stuck. And we're not really stuck. It's just that's all we can perceive in that moment. Because maybe you would move forward, but you don't know how. You don't know what to do. But figuring out what it is that is weighing on you, what are the worst aspects of what you're going through, and really take a look at it. It's not about finding reasons to feel bad. You figure out, okay, what is the worst aspect of what I'm going through? And is there anything that I can do about it? Maybe not to take away the whole thing, but is there any little tiny thing you can do to make it a little bit more bearable? Because if you can make it just a little bit more bearable, then you can move up from there. And sometimes if things are just out of your control, then okay, I'm just going to ride it out. I'm going to figure out a way that I can step out of it for a little bit, that I can distract myself a little bit and be able to find peace, to be able to find a balance point, to be able to find the eye of the storm. There have been times in your life in the past where it was really, really bad, and you thought that that would never end, that that would never move through. But it did. And eventually, you were able to find some joy in life, and that lasted for a while, and then maybe something happened and it got bad again. And it can feel like it's going to last forever. It feels like the Groundhog Day movie, where you just get up and experience the same things, and there's nothing to look forward to. If this persists with you, please seek out help. Find somebody you can talk to, seek out professional help. Call a helpline. If you're a spiritual person, go find a spiritual community that can help you through it. Because you will get through it. One way or another, you will get through it. It has been shown that if someone herniates a disc, after a moment, your body can self-resolve a herniated disc in a year, about a year. Now, that is going to be like the most miserable year of your life, and it's going to be very painful. And there are other ways to deal with it. But if you do absolutely nothing, at some point, it will work its way through. It's just not going to be within your control. It's not going, and it may not necessarily be a result you choose, except that you have choice. You have the ability to choose. And as you take a look at what it is that you want your outcome to be, and one of the things I do is that I will take little vacations into the future. I will tell myself, you know what, a year from now, I'm not going to have that problem, and I'm going to be doing this other stuff, and I'm going to be managing my life in a different way, and there's all kinds of things that I can do. So allow yourself that little bit of a break. Allow yourself the knowledge that it's not always going to be like that. And that at some point in the future, you're going to be doing cool stuff. You know, I think about my retirement, which will be June 18th, 2029. And I still intend to do YouTube and all of that stuff, but I will be retiring as a chiropractor on June 19th, 2029, which the significance of that date is that it will be 25 years to the day since I graduated as a chiropractor. And I thought about it, and, you know, and I was talking with somebody about retirement, so I started thinking about it. It's like, you know what? I think that will be a really cool point to start the next part of my life. And I'm going to get into an RV, and I'm going to get in there with the Rottweiler I will own at that point, whose name will be Carl. Yes, I'm very specific. And I'll be traveling around, and I'll be, you know, looking at things and people, and driving through Canada and driving through the US and doing all kinds of stuff. And so that is my future point, 2029. And it's just under 12 years from now. And it is something that when the moment gets too heavy and I've sorted out the things, okay, I can do something about this, I can't do anything about this. When I need a break, that's where I go. I go to sitting in an RV and tooling around and you know, doing what I want to do, and to just be free. And it's not that I don't love what I do. I honestly do love what I do. And I know that there's more that I'm going to be doing. That at a point when I reach another, 12 years, that'll have me hitting like 67. And then I'm going to be doing something else. So being able to go to that moment in the future, to picture it, to imagine it, to say, you know what, yeah, that's going to be cool. It makes the moment that I'm in a little bit more bearable. See, don't necessarily go to feel wonderful. Sometimes it's enough for the situation to become a little more bearable, for you to get a little bit of a breathing space. Even a tiny eye of the storm is still an eye of the storm. And then you can make it grow. You can expand it. I want that for you. I know that some of you are probably going through some pretty intense stuff. And I'm sorry you are. And if I could change it, I would. And I believe in you and your ability to be able to overcome it, to survive it. It may not be pretty. And eventually, even the worst days come to an end. Even the days that feel like they're never going to end come to an end. Even one of those days that seems to be dragging on will come to an end. And while you're waiting for that, you can create your eye of the storm. You can find a way to do the things that you can do to help relieve the situation. And for those things that you can't do anything about, you can be able to accept that they are temporary. And if this is challenging, talk to someone. Contact me, I'll be happy to listen. And I know that it may seem overwhelming. Believe me, I know. I get it completely. And it's going to be okay. You're going to be okay. And then you'll be fine, and then something else will happen, and then you get to experience that. But that's life. That's what we do. It's part of how we learn. So hang in there, and don't worry, because even those days ultimately end. So thank you for joining me. And for those of you who are a part of the YouTube community, you can like, share, comment. I do read the comments. I do answer them. And subscribe. For those of you who would like to support in a little bit of a bigger way, you can go to my Patreon account and you will be able to sponsor this channel, and it could be for as little as $1 a month. And with that, what I want to do is be able to get some cooler equipment and, get real live microphones and all kinds of other stuff. So I want to really be able to invest in the program and to invest in the channel and to invest in the community, because what I want to do is I want to bring you the best that I can bring you. So if you feel called, if you feel that, you are of the way that you could be able to do that, that would be wonderful, and I'd appreciate that. And if it's just that you're listening and any of this was helpful to you, I'm happy and I'm glad. And let me know. And like I said, let me know if there's any topics you'd like me to cover. For those of you who are listening in on Blog Talk Radio, you can check out you can see what I look like when I'm talking, and you can go to YouTube and search Medicine Walk with Dr. Ayleen, and you can join that community. And all the live streams are, they're there in the archive, so you can be able to listen to any of the ones that you want to. So thank you. Thank you for joining me. And as always, I wish you balance and I wish you blessings from my heart to yours. I love you. Bye-bye.